But the outfolk were famous for their wealth, and Lengar's greed overcame his fear of entering the temple. Lengar dropped onto all fours and crawled through the hazels. Saban followed reluctantly. To Lengar's surprise, there was a cleared space where the death house had stood. Someone in the tribe must still visit the old temple, for a single ox skull lay in the death house, where the stranger now sat with his back against the one remaining temple post. There was blood on his woolen trews, and he dropped his short bow and his quiver of arrows beside the ox skull, and clutched a leather bag to his wounded belly. "I'll fetch father," Saban whispered. "You won't," Lengar hissed. And the wounded man opened his eyes. Lengar dropped his longbow, ran across the death house, and scooped up the stranger's bow and quiver. A murmur of thunder sounded from the west. "Sanas," the stranger said. Sanas was the great sorceress of Cathallo, and Saban presumed the stranger wanted to be healed by her. Lengar smiled and fitted one of the stranger's arrows onto the bow. "Sanas is not of our people," he said. "Sanas lives north of here." The stranger did not understand. "Erek," he said. "Erek." The arrow struck with a sickening force at the left side of the stranger's chest, lurching the man onto his side. Very slowly, he pushed himself back upright. "Please," he said quietly. "Lengar!" Saban scrambled from the hazels. "Let me fetch father!" "Quiet!" Lengar had taken one of his own black-feathered arrows from its quiver and placed it on the short bowstring. He spoke to the stranger. "You're an outlander, and you steal our cattle, enslave our women, and cheat our traders." He let the second arrow loose, this time into the ribs on his right side. "I can give you power," the stranger said, as a trickle of bubbly pink blood spilled from his mouth. "Power." But Lengar did not understand the man's tongue. He picked up his own longbow, laid an arrow on its string, and faced the stranger. He drew the huge bow back. The stranger stared Lengar in the eyes to show he was not afraid to die. He cursed his killer, though he doubted the gods would listen to him, for he was a thief and a fugitive. Lengar loosed, and the black-feathered arrow struck deep into the stranger's heart. He died in an instant, and Lengar snatched the bag from the stranger's dead hand. He peered inside, then screamed for joy. Lengar emptied the bag's contents onto the grass in a stream of gold. There were dozens of small lozenge-shaped gold ornaments, each the size of a man's thumbnail, and 4 great plaques as big as a man's hand. The lozenges had tiny holes drilled through their narrower points, so they could be strung on a sinew or sewn to a garment, and all were made of very thin gold sheets, incised with straight lines, though their pattern meant nothing to Lengar. "You know what this is?" he asked his younger brother. "Gold," Saban said. "Power," Lengar said. "Do you know what you can do with gold?" "Wear it?" Saban suggested. "Fool. You buy men with it. You buy spearmen. You buy archers and warriors. You buy power." Saban grabbed one of the small lozenges, then dodged out of the way when Lengar tried to take it back. He squatted and peered at the scrap of gold. It shone as though a piece of the sun was trapped within the metal. Lengar folded the dead man's cloak back to reveal trews that were held up by a belt buckled with a great lump of heavy gold. More small lozenges hung about his neck. Lengar glanced at his younger brother, then picked up one of the arrows that had fallen from the stranger's hand, and placed the black and white fledged arrow onto the string of his own bow. Saban suddenly understood what was in Lengar's mind. If Saban lived to tell their father of this outfolk treasure, then Lengar would lose it. But if Saban were discovered dead, with an outfolk's arrow in his ribs, then no one would ever suspect that Lengar had done the killing, nor that Lengar had taken a great treasure. Thunder swelled in the west. "Look at this!" Saban cried, holding up the small lozenge. "Look!" Lengar relaxed the bowstring's pressure as he peered, and the boy took off like a hare. Lengar's arrow whirred past his ear. Thunder tore the sky as the first rain fell. A stab of lightning flashed down to the opposite hillside, and the rain fell harder, filling the air with its malevolent roar, but making a screen to hide the boy as he ran towards the settlement. He screamed as he ran. Galeth, Saban's uncle, and 5 other men had been returning to the settlement when they heard the boy's shouts. They turned back, and Saban clutched at his uncle's deerskin jerkin. "He tried to kill me! He tried to kill me!" "Who?" Galeth asked. He was the youngest brother of Saban's father, tall, thick-bearded, and famous for his feats of strength. "He did!" Saban shrieked, pointing to where Lengar had appeared with the longbow, a new arrow slotted on its string. Lengar stopped. Galeth gazed at his older nephew. "You tried to kill your own brother?" Lengar laughed. "It was an outlander, not me." "An outlander?" Galeth asked, spitting to avert ill fortune. "There are outfolk up on the pasture?" "Only the one," Lengar said carelessly, "and he's dead now." "He tried to kill me," Saban insisted, "because of the gold." He held up the lozenge as proof. "Gold, eh?" Galeth asked, taking it. "We'd better take it to your father." Lengar gave Saban a look of utter hatred, then turned back up the hill, risking the storm's anger so that he could rescue the rest of the gold. The storm god raged across the earth that night, and the wind moaned among the timber posts of the temple's rings. The temples were rings of timber raised within a bank and ditch that made a wider circle around the timber rings. Always a circle, for life was a circle, and the sky was a circle, and the edge of the world was a circle, and the sun was a circle, and the moon grew to a circle, and that was why the temples at Cathallo and Rowena, at Madden and Ratharryn, were made as circles. That night, Hengel, chief of the people at Ratharryn, brooded on the gold of the outfolk. Lengar had returned to Ratharryn and did not come to his father's hut. When Hengel sent a slave, demanding that his son bring him the treasure, Lengar had answered that he was too tired. So now Hengel was consulting the tribe's high priest. "He will challenge you," Hirak said. "Sons should challenge their fathers," Hengel answered. The chief was a tall, heavy man, with a scarred face and a great ragged beard that was matted with grease. Beneath the dirt, his thick arms bore innumerable blue marks to show how many enemies he had slain in battle. His name simply meant the warrior, though Hengel loved peace far more than war. Hirak was thin, his joints ached, and his white beard was scanty, but Hirak spoke with the gods, and so his advice was crucial. "Lengar will fight you," Hirak warned Hengel. "If he fights, I shall kill him." "If you kill him," Hirak hissed, "then you will have only 2 sons left." "1 son left," Hengel snarled. Hengel felt shamed that he had only fathered 3 sons, and even more shame that one of those was a cripple, the stuttering fool called Camaban, whom he would not count as his own. "Lengar won't challenge me. He only fights when he knows he can win. That is why he will be a good chief, if he lives." Between the priest's knees was a pile of slender bones, the ribs of a baby that had died the previous winter. He pushed them into random patterns that he studied with a cocked head. "Sanas will want the gold," he said. Hengel, like every other living being, held the sorceress of Cathallo in awe. But Hengel appeared to shrug the thought away. "And Kittal has many spearmen," Hirak added. "You let me worry about spears, Hirak. You tell me what the gold means. Why did it come here? Who sent it? What do I do with it?" The priest knew that a vast treasure was already concealed within the hut. Hengel had ever been a hoarder.